Bring me everyone.
What do you mean, everyone?
Everyone! I need a tactical watch that's not over the top, but they're all so damn cheesy or just made too damn teeny. What's this brand out of left field? Some watches called Winfield. I almost shit my pants. They look the part, they feel the part, but do they act the part? Only one way to find out. I guess I'll add one to my cart. It's not a bargain-based brand. You'll know that when it's in your hand. The substantial feel, the nicely finished steel, but the prices are really low, even though now you know. The movements are regulated, the dive depth substantiated, sapphire up top, bezel with no slop. Winfield did it all just right, and of course, lume so bright that it's lit up all night. Precision under pressure, value beyond measure. Assembled by hand right here in the homeland. Ohio pride, the quality is applied. Made for adventure, dive with the best, then take it on your hike up Everest. Founded by a vet, he's seen it all, you can bet. Foreign adventures in many foreign lands, seeing how watches handle abuse firsthand. It's not a bargain-based brand. You'll know that when it's in your hand. The substantial feel, the nicely finished steel, but the prices are really low, even though now you know. The movements are regulated, the dive depth substantiated, sapphire up top. I almost shit my pants. They look the part, they feel the part, but do they act the part? Only one way to find out. I guess I'll add one to my cart. It's not a bargain-based brand. You'll know that when it's in your hand. The substantial feel, the nicely finished steel, but the prices are really low, even though now you know. The movements are regulated, the dive depth substantiated, sapphire up top, bezel with no slop. Winfield did it all just right, and of course, lume so bright.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Jim here, and I am going to introduce you to a watch brand that I think that you may have not heard of yet. This is the Winfield Watch Company. We're going to be taking a look at a pair of the MT5 Parabellum. Now, the reason I want to bring this out across multiple channels of mine is because I cover a variety of different things. On my main channel, it's all knives and flashlights. On my secondary channel, it's general EDC gear, and that can include guns and gun accessories. And then, obviously, my watch channel, which is dedicated just to watches. And while there may be some crossover in subscribership, each of the channels are really dedicated to very specific things that people are going to be specifically searching out. And with Winfield, I feel that this really blurs the lines. It's obviously a watch guy's watch. However, what they're designed for, or the people they're designed for, are those who are going to be maybe a little bit more outdoor adventurous. Maybe they're military, ex-military, law enforcement, that kind of tactical kind of crowd. I think are going to be very, very attracted to these. And the general EDC community, because we all buy stuff that we think is cool and gadgety, right? It could be our flashlights, it could be our knives, it could be our firearm choices. And a lot of times we tend to gravitate toward the same types of things. That's why I wanted to expose all of my various audiences to this watch. And when I'm done showing you these, what I'm going to be doing is sending one or maybe even both to various friends of mine that are involved in the EDC and knife communities that have an interest in watches and see what they think of it. I think we can have some fun with that. So, without any further ado, let's get this open. Now, for those that don't know, I do have a generalized unboxing channel that I just started called the EDC Unboxing Experience. Now, I kind of launched that channel quietly, didn't really tell anybody about it, and I haven't done any marketing for it or anything, so it has almost no subscribers and very, very little views, or I should say few views, that's proper English. But it's a fun departure for me, and I get a chance to just sit here silently and unbox stuff without talking, without giving my opinions or anything like that. So I've already covered this on that channel, so I'm not going to go super slow motion on this, but we'll go ahead and get it open. Where's the end? There's the end. Now, what I dig about this is it feels really high quality and rugged. This is obviously just some sort of wax nylon with a leather strap and the leather patch that has the Winfield Watch logo on it, and it's a watch roll. So you're getting not just packaging that you're going to be taking up space in a closet or storage bin with, you have something that you can actually use. If you do any sort of traveling and you want to carry 4 watches with you, plus the one on your wrist, have a 5-watch rotation for the week as you're traveling, you can throw 4 watches in here and then you roll it up. They're all protected. They don't bang up against each other. Your crystals and your cases are all nice and safe. And it takes up very little bit of room in your luggage. So I like the fact that they're forward thinking on this. So let's take out the steel version first. Now these are both going to be stainless steel, but this one is in the white. Well, actually it's not in the white. It's not raw. It is brushed stainless steel. And the other one's going to be PVD. Now, one thing I want to make very clear, even though I have one sitting here on the nylon strap and one sitting here on the leather strap, each watch will ship with both of these straps. I don't know what color you're always going to get on the nylon, but you're always going to get a Horween, genuine Horween leather strap. We'll talk about that as we're establishing value a little bit later on. And then you'll also be getting, along with the leather Horween, you'll be getting a nylon strap. Let's not get bogged down in that crap. First, I want to start off with the specs, because the specs are what actually got this watch under my lens, and I'll tell that story in a few minutes. What you've got here is a case that is 44 millimeters in diameter, made of 3/16L stainless steel, brushed and polished, with drilled lugs, dual case back gaskets, and a metal movement holder. It's 13.5 millimeters in thickness. The lugs that I mentioned, the drilled lugs, are 22 millimeters, so these take 22 millimeter straps. So you're safe. It's so easy to find 22 millimeter size straps from pretty much any strap maker that you've come across online. These are each 200 meters water resistant. Fun fact that we'll talk about more later is that they are individually tested. Each and every individual case is tested. So the watch that you wear will have been individually tested for that. The movement is the SII NH35A, which is regulated. Another part we're going to get back to later. So I don't want to get bogged down in the details while we're kind of doing the broad overview here. Bezel is going to be a countdown style bezel with a lume pip. And your strap is going to be Horween leather plus the nylon Zulu NATO, whatever you want to call it. The Super Luminova that's being used inside is the Super Luminova X1 compound, which is still relatively new to most people and is claimed to be able to boost the performance by about 60% after 2 hours of degradation. So it's supposed to be longer lasting, not necessarily brighter than C3. And of course, longevity is important. Now, I think value is probably the most important thing to discuss here. If I can get glare off of the crystals, that would be great. You're on camera, guys. Come on. Okay. Let's talk about the value. You're looking at $425. Now, sometimes they're on sale pricing. Right now, as of this morning when I'm recording this, I checked online, and on their website, they're selling them for $50 off, so they're $375. That's a great deal for all that you're getting. Keep in mind, sapphire crystal, 200 meters of water resistance, and an SII NH35A movement with superluminova. All those things together would put you in that $400 to $600 price range from most micro brands, right? Here's the kicker. Number one, these are all assembled in the United States by hand. That does cost more money. No matter whether you put an importance on that fact or not, it does cost more money to do. The biggest upgrade is the fact that this movement, the NH35A, is adjusted to 6 positions, which is similar to what must be done to receive Swiss COSC certification. Notice I'm not one of the people that says COSC. I absolutely hate that. It's such a toe-curling, cringe-inducing thing to hear from people that are supposed to know about watches. It irks the hell out of me. So you'll never hear that on my channel. So that's impressive that they're putting in the work at this price level. Now, if it were truly COSC certified, they would be sending each movement off for certification. And what happens is you send it into the governing body, which is the Swiss COSC, and they test your movement in 6 different positions. So think of dial up, dial down, crown up, crown down, all these different orientations. But then they also do that at varying temperatures. And then you have to fit in within a small window of variance in order to be claimed to be that accurate. They're putting in all of the work that it would require to pass that testing. The only difference is you're not paying that ridiculous price of a COSC certified chronometer because they're not paying for the certification. Because pass or fail, every movement you send to the COSC, you have to pay to have tested. If it fails, you're still paying. It doesn't matter. So you're taking the time out of production that you cannot assemble your watches because your movement isn't in-house anymore. It has been shipped off. You're paying for the shipment to Switzerland. You're paying the service fee to the COSC to do this. You're waiting however long it is for them to do the certification and then ship the movements back to you, where you can then finish your assembly and then sell your product. Time is money. And of course, money is money. Paying them to test it, paying for shipping back and forth. These are all things that are expensive. So that cost gets passed on to the consumer. They've put in the work to make it as accurate, but without the extraneous costs that you don't care about. They're also using a movement holder that's made of metal instead of plastic. Now, there's nothing particularly wrong with a plastic movement holder. It just shows that a company doing that is cheaping out in some fashion in an area that you can't necessarily see all the time. So the cool thing is here, they know that you're probably never going to open up your case back for any reason. But even if you don't, you know that you've got something nicer in there. If you do ever open it, you're not let down by, oh God, they put it together like that. They don't do that shit. Now, upgrading the straps from standard hides to genuine Horween leather, to me, is a really big deal in this price range. Because I've spent as much as half of the price of this entire watch on just one Horween strap in the past. Yeah, so, yeah, they really are, they're cranking up the value. Now I think we should probably show the lume and discuss it just a little bit. That's the beauty of Swiss Superluminova. So it's going to be vivid and bright upon first charge, and it's going to remain long-lasting, visible throughout the night. Now, with the X1 compound, it's supposed to be significantly longer lasting through the night than the original Superluminova. I couldn't tell you that for certain because there are a lot of times that you'll buy a watch and you know it's listed as Superluminova, but they didn't tell you it was X1. So I don't know, to be perfectly honest with you, every single watch that I have in my collection that is or is not X1. So to compare this to, say, a Zinn or a Breitling or a Panerai or anything else that I have or have had in my collection, I'd be doing you a disservice because I just don't know which of those have the exact same compound. But it works really, really well, and I've been super impressed with the legibility of this dial thus far. So this is why I say value is very important with this brand. They're not a price-driven brand, and I don't want you to think of it that way. It's not like one of those direct marketing push brands where it's all about price, 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 price. But when you're out there shopping, especially in the micro brand arena, and you're looking at really high quality watches, and you're trying to find the ones that you can get at the best prices, this is one that should be in your field of view. Let's take a listen to this bezel. Super solid, zero backplay, nice and smooth. It's got a little bit of extra tension to it, and each click of the 120 click bezel is sharply defined. So it's a really really well made quality bezel. There's no deflection either, so I could push down wherever I want, and it's not bouncing on that retainer clip. They did a really, really good job. Here is the case back. Mark 200 meters water resistant, sapphire crystal, automatic movement. Everything that you need to know. I love the fact that it's a low profile case. I like thick chunky watches, but it's nice when you can make a beefy watch that isn't overdone on its proportions. And I had mentioned earlier that it was the dimensions that got me into this watch to begin with. I had seen a buddy of mine, Don Evans, over at the Watch Report. He had posted on Instagram about Winfield watches, and he tagged me in it because we talk often about our preferences on the size of watches and where the industry has gone over the years. Because, as I've mentioned in previous videos, 20 years ago, it was not uncommon to see men wearing 48, 50, 52, 55 millimeter watches. The problem with that, many of us could carry it off, but the problem with that was the fact that it was only satisfying one part of the market. Big guys with big wrists. More, I guess, quote unquote, normal size guys, average size guys, couldn't pull it off or just weren't comfortable trying to pull it off. It just wasn't who they were, or it looked stupid. Now, the pendulum has unfortunately swung all the way in the other direction without really any room in the middle. Almost every good quality micro brand, you see the designs, you fall in love, you're like, oh, I need to have that watch. And you scroll down to the specs, and it's a 38 or 40 millimeter watch, in a sport watch, in a diver. And you're like, why? I'm not an adolescent. I'm not waiting for my balls to drop. I'm a man-sized man. I don't wear skinny jeans. I don't have a man bun. I'm not effeminate in any way. I'm not a delicate creature with a teeny tiny little wrist. Yes, I understand that there are men out there that are 5'5" and 120 pounds, and you need watches too. Totally get that. However, It doesn't need to be every friggin' watch. Just like you said 20 years ago, not every friggin' watch needs to be 50 millimeters. So hopefully you understand where I'm coming from. I really enjoy brands. I used Zelos as an example, where they'll take their most popular models and they'll make like a 45 millimeter. Then they'll also make like a 42 millimeter or a 40 millimeter of that same exact watch and change nothing but the dimensions. So it satisfies everybody. And I've seen a couple brands start to do that. So when I saw this post that Don had made and he's talking about a 44 millimeter case, I replied, I'm like, oh, thank God, somebody's making a man-sized watch for a change. And the owner of Winfield Watch Company, his name is Mark Miller, he saw my post and he sent me a quick message and said, hey man, thank you. I really appreciate the validation because there are a lot of people that really do want smaller sized watches. And that's just not what we're offering with these. These are meant to be big, robust, normal sized sport watches, field watches, dive watches, whatever the particular model happens to be. And I understood where he was coming from on that. So let me go ahead and put this on while I'm jabbering about sizes. I love the size of this watch. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take my watch off of my wrist right now that I'm wearing, which is my Helm Watches Vanuatu, which is a 43 millimeter case. Absolutely love it. It's a wonderful balance. It's a great size. It's not overpowering, but it doesn't feel tiny in any way. My personal comfort zone is 42 to 44 millimeter. I have worn significantly larger 20 years ago, and I have worn significantly smaller when I was collecting vintage watches, because in the 1950s and 60s, men wore 36, 38 millimeter watches. We don't do that anymore. Now, if I'm wearing a dress watch, cool. 40 millimeter, 41 millimeter, totally fine because they're generally going to have a slimmer bezel, larger dial opening, and you don't want an ostentatious dress watch anyway. So, here is 44 millimeters on my wrist. And with the short lug end to lug end distance, it's not overbearing at all. It's not a challenging watch to wear. So I think, quite honestly, if you have a 7-inch wrist and above, you're going to fall in love with these things. It's going to fit really, really well. And I'll do the same thing here with the silver tone that has the Horween leather. One of the things that you may be worried about when you see leather strap, especially ones that are this thick, is you know that there's going to be a long break-in period, and the first week or so that you wear it, until you've sweated into it or something, it'll generally be stiff on the sides and won't conform to the shape of your wrist for a long time. Not so the case with Horween. With Horween, yes, they're thick, and yes, they're solid, but they're supple in the way that they're flexible enough to wrap around your wrist pretty much immediately and feel like an old worn-in baseball glove. And they will continue to age beyond that, which I think is probably one of the best reasons to choose Horween and their selection of leather, the grade of leather, and the tanning that they do. Because over time, and you can see it here on any of the bend points, it's going to age. It's going to start aging very, very quickly. I've only had this watch for a few days. And anytime it gets nicked or scratched, it's going to leave marks. And it's part of that aging process that really is desirable. You know, it's like comparing a nice leather jacket. You have a couple of different ways of looking at it. Maybe you have that black leather sport coat that it's nice because it's sharply defined with its shape and everything else, and it's very smooth leather, and it looks really, really expensive. But then you have that that leather bomber jacket, right? That more casual wear that's more worn in, softer, and all of the wrinkles in it are highlighted in a lighter shade because it has begun to age in those areas, and that's just as attractive in a different way. You want that aged look, and that's exactly what this strap is going to do. So, when I look at this overall, let's go ahead and get the watch roll out of here. When I look at this overall, this fits in with all the stuff that we like up here. They're tough, they're cool, they're macho, and they're tools. These are super tough tools that are meant to be used and relied upon on a daily basis. And they also happen to look really nice. Now, maybe I didn't choose the best example to lay out here for looking really nice, but that's not my main criteria when I buy those. There are some that, yes, I buy because they have already established themselves as very high quality, very reliable, very accurate, great on every level, and also are very attractive. You guys have seen parts of my collection. But stuff like this is a tool. I don't care what the finish looks like in a few years from all the carry, all the shooting. I don't care about any of that because this was meant simply because it's a fantastic tool. Not particularly expensive. Again, I have some that are easily 5 times the cost of this that I love, but it's not always about the money. And that's another way to circle back to this. Yes, you could buy a watch with the exact same specs from another respected micro brand and spend $100 to $200 more and get an equal quality watch. I'm not saying it can't happen, but it's going to cost a little bit more. And it's probably not going to be a regulated movement. And it's probably not going to be made to where each and every case are individually pressure tested for the water resistance. Let me quickly break that down on the way out. If you don't care about water resistance, the review itself is over. You can tune out now. I don't want to take up too much of your precious time. But if you do care, or you just want a little bit of education, stick around just for a second. Okay, quick little ninja edit here because I forgot to mention a couple of things, and I want to do that very, very quickly before we head off to talking about the water resistance and all that kind of good stuff, and before I sign off. The first thing is I have one small niggle with this watch, and that is with the crown guards over here. Because the corners right back here on the back are kind of sharp. Now, you won't feel them at all while you're wearing the watch. Thank goodness, that's a good thing. But when you're unscrewing or screwing back down the crown, particularly when you're screwing the crown back in because you're pushing in while you're getting the threading started, you will definitely snag that corner and you're going to feel the sharpness. Now, it's not that big of a deal, but it is something to be made aware of and something that Winfield should probably look into, just kind of knocking off that tiny little edge right there. Won't take but a second in manufacturing. But, you know, I've been making knives for a number of years, so I don't really feel too much in my fingers. But if I can notice this, then that tells me that somebody with normal, standard, regular, everyday hands, you work in an office or something, it's going to feel really sharp to you and it's going to be bothersome. Now, the watch overall has no other flaws for me personally. I think it's fantastic. The case shape reminds me a lot of the Captain Willard. If you're a big Seiko fan, you know what I'm talking about, or going into the more modern turtles. It's very, very similar to that, but it's just a little bit bigger. It's 2 millimeters larger. If you go look right now at a king turtle, go to your local Seiko dealer and pick up a turtle that's $750, put it on your wrist. This is only 2 millimeters larger, which for me, again, is perfect because as much as I love the turtle, it's just a hair too small. I have a Captain Willard homage watch that I love. I think it's fantastic. I just wish it was a couple millimeters larger. And this will fit the person that thinks like I do. These are not specifically a dive watch, because this is not a dive watch bezel. This is a countdown timer bezel. Now, if you look on their website, they do have a model that is identical to this with a dive bezel that they're calling a dive watch. And there are two different ways that you can mark your dive watches on the dial. You could do this where it says 200 meters water resistant, or 200 meters with the feet, whatever. Again, if this were a dive watch, they could also write divers 200 meter. What is that distinction? The distinction is, if you have made a dive watch and it just says 200 meters water resistant, that means that the manufacturer knows they have made that watch to a specification that will reach 200 meters of pressure testing. And out of a batch of those cases, they will test one or maybe a couple of those cases. And if their selected cases pass, the whole batch passes. If it says divers 200 meters, which if this were a dive-only dedicated watch, they could legitimately put that on their dial because of what they're doing. Each and every individual case is tested, but it's tested for beyond the rating that's given. So let's say it says 200 meters. There's a very good chance that they cranked up the machine to a pressure of 250 or 300 meters possibly. Probably not 300, but going over by 25%, I could see. So this watch will exceed the stated limitation. That's another great value proposal. So when I talk so much about price on this, it's not because the brand is all about pricing. It's because I've seen so many brands out there, what they're offering and what they're charging in that range, and I feel that this is an extraordinary value. Just like I told you on the Helm Vanuatu. Unfortunately, you have to wait on about a 2-year wait list to get one of those. This you don't. These are available right now. Same kind of deal. You're getting an exceptional quality watch that has all of the bells and whistles that you've been looking for right there in the specs. And then beyond that, the hand assembly in the United States, the metal movement holder, the sapphire crystal, the regulated movement, the individually tested water pressure with the cases. All of these things for $425. That's why I'm harping on the price, because I think it's a great deal. So do me a favor, share this video if you like the information in it. Click like on it, all that kind of good stuff. Because yes, algorithm, it's stupid, it's horrible, we shouldn't even have to say it, but YouTube stifles everything unless it fits in that tiny little box where they feel they can hold more people watching videos and make more money for their platform. So whatever. So share it, like it, do whatever. And you know what? If you're in the EDC community, share this with your friends. Let them know, hey, there's something cool out there. It's not a poser watch. It's not a, I want to use their brand name, but I'm not going to. A certain brand where they had that cool military look, and even in the marketing it says this is the choice of the Navy SEALs and this. It is not. You'll never meet one that wears one. This has the same performance level that you would expect from a tough environment surviving kind of watch that's used for that type of thing. It looks the part, it feels the part, it performs the part, and it's only $425. What more needs to be said? With that, I'm out of here. Thank you guys for joining me as always, and I'll see you on the next video.